Welcome to Datograms. I want to tell you about the day I got scammed by a one-armed kid in Cartagena, Colombia. Except that he wasn't one-armed. He was a 10-year-old con artist. And that day he taught me a hard lesson, one that would shape how I saw the problem of homelessness over the next 25 years. Now, due to some unexpected developments in my life, I'm having to rethink my thoughts on homelessness. And it's a struggle. I've got to share with you what I am inadvertently involved with. And if you have any thoughts on this subject at all, I would love for you to speak up in the comments section about it. I'm Garrett, a retired Navy commander, a helicopter pilot, and a guy who built his life on structure, hard work, and personal responsibility. I've been blessed with opportunities. Some I earned, some I created, and some that were handed to me by my parents who believed in me. And for a long time I assumed most people had at least some version of the same tools. I assumed the playing field was rough, but still level. But I guess I was wrong. Some people are running the same race you and I are racing, except they're doing it with their shoelaces tied together. So let me tell you the rest of that story in Cartagena as a lesson I learned as a young naval officer on a port call in Colombia, South America. In that place in the year 2000, poverty was everywhere. Kids, adults, seniors all had their hands out, begging, hoping, desperate. I mean, you could feel it. It was palpable. And I and all the sailors around me wanted to do what we could to help. So we gave, and we quickly ran out of the local currency, all those little coins we got, all those pesos. Every single coin had been handed out, and there was literally nothing left, except for me, a few $20 bills, American $20 bills that I still had in my wallet. Then one boy approached me, 10, maybe 11 years old, and he was wearing an oversized shirt, flip-flops, dirty, malnourished, and he held out one hand, and I was horrified to realize he didn't have another. He was missing an arm at the shoulder, and I didn't think this kid had a chance in the world. And as I had no more pesos, I reluctantly gave him a $20 bill. Now, that might not sound like a lot today, but for me back then, $20 was a really big deal, especially when you're on deployment on a Navy warship. You can't just get paper money very easily. So it did cost me, and I really was reluctant to give it, but I did. And as soon as I did, I could see the relief on his face when he got it, like I just saved his life. And actually, it felt like I had done something meaningful, and so it was justified. But later that night, I saw him again. I was sitting on a restaurant balcony overlooking the street, and there he was in a pack full of beggars waiting for all of us Navy folks to finish up with our dinner so that we could walk out with a bunch of change that we could hand out. And there this one-armed kid was holding up that $20 bill for me to see. And I was terrified it would get stolen from him by the other beggars, until I realized he was holding it up in both hands. I had been scammed. That little monster had folded one arm behind himself all day long just so that people would pity him, and it worked. As I looked at him in shocked surprise, he flipped me off, and all the other beggars started laughing at me. I felt stupid, I felt embarrassed, taken advantage of, and that act hardened my heart. It flipped a switch in me, and from that night on, I have never given a single penny to another homeless person again. Now, I'm not a bad person, don't get me wrong. I give to charities, I give at the church, but I personally don't hand out money on the street corners, not one penny, because I suspect, or maybe I fear, a lot of them are scammers too. So now, skip ahead 10 years. The military has us living in Hawaii, and for as wonderful as Hawaii is, and it really is wonderful, it is the go-to destination for the homeless. Most believe they are actually flown in from the mainland where various communities don't want them around anymore, and maybe they are. But whatever it is, they get to Hawaii and they're trapped there. They can't go anyplace, and I mean they are everywhere. They're on every bench, every beach, sidewalks, intersections, and while I was there, I kept that same attitude, knowing in my heart that most of this was the game they played. No doubt I was jaded, to say the least, but something about all of this had me paying attention to the issue while I was there. It seemed that there were more and more homeless people there every single day, and I couldn't help but get curious about why. Why were there so many? And while I was there, I learned that there were studies done that said most homeless fall into one of three groups. People who preferred the lifestyle, especially living in Hawaii on the beaches, and that made sense. people who were mentally ill, and I know we've all seen those types of folks who need medical or psychiatric help, so that made sense too. And then the last group, those who were legitimately down on their luck. At that time, I couldn't accept that. It didn't make sense to me. Down on your luck in America? Really? With all the jobs out there? So that's how I felt about the homeless until now. As it turns out, something has changed in my life. Homelessness has become dangerously close to happening to a member of my own family. This is where my thoughts and beliefs shift in this Dadogram as I struggle to rethink what I thought I knew about the world I live in. A member of my extended family has a mild cognitive disability. Not severe, not obvious to everyone. He graduated high school, even attended college. For nearly 20 years, he served as a volunteer firefighter, fully certified and credited with saving lives. This guy is willing and able to work any job. He's not lazy, not entitled, and no, not dangerous. But he is a bit different. Some would say that he's a bit rough around the edges. But this kind of difference is enough that he gets fired every few years that he's on the job for no other reason than that people just don't quite understand him. Now, over the years, he has bought his own condo and has it fully paid off. He did it all by himself. But he didn't understand that paid off didn't mean that the bills would stop coming. He didn't realize he still owed HOA fees every single month because they had always before come out with a mortgage while he paid it off over 15 years. So he ignorantly didn't pay his HOA dues for a few years and didn't understand the warnings in the mail. So the HOA moved to foreclose on this guy who owned his condo outright. Luckily, they called my wife and I, and we stepped in, paid the fees, and saved the condo. And we figured that would solve the problem. But it didn't. You see, we found out that the system is rigged against him and those like him. He didn't have a checking account or a savings account. Turns out he couldn't get one. He had no credit. He didn't make a lot, just minimum wage. And, surprising to us, most banks don't accept folks like him. So when he gets paid from his job, they pay him with a payment card, like a prepaid debit card. Then he'd stand in an ATM and pay fees just to access his own money. So he'd pull out all that cash and then he'd go and try to pay bills with it, which, as you can imagine, in this day and age was hard as hell. But where he really ran into problems again was trying to pay his HOA fees, where he'd put $220 in an envelope and drop it in the HOA box to make his monthly payment, like a lot of folks used to do back in the good old days. And they didn't like it at all. One, it's risky. Someone could just pocket it. And two, they didn't want to handle money and take it to the bank and deposit it. After all, most of the world nowadays doesn't use paper money. Eventually, the HOA said, "We do not accept cash. Stop doing this." And suddenly, he was out of compliance again, with an increasing debt and 30% penalties. 30%. And it's not because he wouldn't pay. It's because he literally couldn't pay the way they wanted him to. So once again, we stepped in. We helped him get a bank account. We helped him set up autopay. We helped him do all the stuff the world assumes every adult knows how to do. But as it turns out, he and so many like him can't. That was frustrating for all of us. But here's the part that shocked me. Right now, he can't get a job because jobs are online now. He's willing to work anything. Dishwasher, landscaper, security guard, cook, night stalker at Walmart, trash cleanup, anything. He'll show up early. He'll stay late. He's dependable. He works hard. But every business, every single one, when he asks them for an application, they say the same thing. Go online and apply. And he can't. He doesn't understand the process. He can't use a computer well enough to navigate it. He doesn't have the technological skills that society now assumes everyone just has. In order to get a blue-collar job in this world, you have to have white-collar skills to apply. We even bought him a laptop. My wife built his resume. She sat with him for hours teaching him how. And it still overwhelms him, which brings me to the realization that hit me like a freight train. Some people aren't homeless because they prefer to beg for coins at the street corner. They're homeless because the world has left them behind. Think about it. What does every middle-class person say about homelessness? Just go get a job. Right? You've probably said it yourself. Well, Okay then, where? How? Do you know that in order to get a job as a night stalker at Walmart, they have to have a resume with a cover letter? What? Fast food? You have to apply online. Landscaping? Same thing. It's impossible now for so many. The guy I'm talking about still has his condo. He's even got a car that is paid off, and he can't get a job anywhere. We've been working with him for 7 months now. Can you imagine if he truly was homeless, living on the streets? You have no computer, no phone, no internet, no charging cable, no address to put on the form. What chance would you possibly have? And I know what you're thinking. I know, because I've thought the same thing myself. Why don't they just go down to the library and use the computers there, right? Wrong. At least not here. Libraries now charge for the use of their computers. And so what are they going to do to afford that? This is truly a puzzle to me. How exactly is a person without technological skills supposed to get a job that requires a computer they don't own and white-collar skills they don't have? We built a society where the first step out of homelessness requires technology that the homeless don't have access to. Is this insane or what? It's cruelty disguised as progress. And because it didn't affect me personally, I didn't see it. And I bet most of you don't see it either. I would never have thought of it until one of my own family members was falling through the cracks, and now it's got my attention. For years, I believed that you choose your life. You could always work your way out of anything. And I still believe in hard work, self-discipline, self-responsibility, and perhaps obsessively, I believe in the idea of self-reliance. I take care of me and mine. And I've also learned something else. Some people do everything right and still lose. Not because they didn't try, not because they're lazy, but because the modern world is built on assumptions they cannot meet. Hear me? Some people can't make it in the advanced world. It's leaving them behind. Some people really can't adapt as fast as the majority of us, and I realize it now. I finally get it. When you're neurotypical, when you grew up with computers, when technology makes sense to you, you think everybody else is the same, but they're not. Some people are out there drowning quietly in plain sight. So, here we are, still trying to help him get a job. And unlike in the past, so far even with our help, he hasn't gotten one. And so we're partially subsidizing him. And now I'm starting to wonder, kind of, if maybe he's become dependent on us and maybe less likely that he's going to go out there and try to work hard and find a job. Should I cut him off? Should we keep helping? It's a hard deal. I just can't let him lose that condo to the HOA, because then, for sure, he will be homeless. Anyway, that's what we're working on, and I'd be interested in hearing your comments. And for you business owners out there who can't seem to find anyone who is willing to work for low wages, the low wages you want to pay, let me ask you this. Do you take paper applications? Because there is a hidden workforce out there ready and willing to work now. They just don't have the online skills you think they need in order to be able to wash your dishes or take your trash out or dig ditches. So think about it. I sure am. I'm Jason M. Garrett, and this has been your Dadogram.